We have no other land to go to. That's how a Palestinian woman responds to Israeli soldiers seeking to displace her and her community from their village in the West Bank. It's one of the many moving moments in this award-winning documentary made by an Israeli and Palestinian collective. The film is indeed called No Other Land. Take a look.
في صوت بيطلع مش ناس قاعدين يعني فيش بني ادمين.
شوف دخلوا.
This is what's happening in my village now. Soldiers are everywhere.
يكون كثير حلو إذا نصير استقرار.
Well, you just saw Palestinian filmmaker Basel Adra and Israeli filmmaker and journalist Yuval Abraham in those images. They made the film alongside Hamdan, Ballal and Rachel Szor. Welcome to the show, Basel and Yuval.
Thank you.
Now, I believe the two of you met in Masafer Yatta about 5 years ago. Basel, that's your home village in the West Bank, and it's not far from where you live, Yuval, in Israel. The context was extremely tense at the time. The Israeli army had declared the region a military zone. They'd come there to demolish homes and buildings. You were both documenting that. What did you think of each other when you first met?
Yuval was to be honest, a special person that speaks like that fluent Arabic that come to Masafer Yatta, but not a special person as an activist. I want to be honest, because in Masafer Yatta, in the last 20 years, we have many international and Israeli solidarity activists who come to stand in solidarity with us in those communities opposing the occupation and the apartheid we face.
Yeah, for me, Basel really changed my life, I think, because we're very good friends today and also partners for a struggle. As Basel said, we are opposing the occupation and we are supporting a future of mutual security and equality between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And I think to spend 5 years with Basel on the ground in really tough moments, documenting the way in which his community was destroyed and still is being destroyed, was hard, and it also bonded us in a very strong way. And I'm grateful we could have made this film to now share it with the world and with people in France.
And as you say, the footage you were collecting together went on to become this film, No Other Land. But Basel, you'd been doing that for much longer. You started filming events in your home when you were a teenager. How did that start? What did the camera represent for you?
Well, I grew up seeing cameras around me that those activists brought to my community, seeing part of my family and other neighbors like taking these cameras and filming. And when I grew up, little by little, I understand that the camera is the only tool in our community facing this brutal machine of occupation that trying to uproot us from our homeland. So I understood how it's important to have evidence of these such crimes that are committed against us, to have, when we are trying to have normal home or school or a clean water to drink or electricity, and they're trying to destroy it, and we don't have that much to do in their faces other than this camera on our hands to go and film, and other than our voices and today to share these stories and to call for the world to stand up against these crimes.
So it's important work of bearing witness. And Yuval, you've worked on this a lot as a journalist, reporting on the displacement of Palestinians in the West Bank, other questions of inequality and human rights abuses. At one point in the film, you're challenged by a fellow Israeli who's part of that displacement operation, and you say that you're there because you're unhappy with what's being done, quote unquote, in your name. Can you explain that feeling?
Yes, I think the military occupation of the West Bank has been going for decades, and of course I was born into a reality where this is happening, and I feel I have a responsibility because I look at those soldiers who are destroying Basel's house and Basel's community, and it's people who speak Hebrew, which is my language. It's people that I might have grown up with. And I feel I have a responsibility because of that. And I also feel I have a responsibility towards my own people, the Israeli people, because I fundamentally believe that we cannot be secure as a people if the Palestinians are not free and equal. And those of us who want to change that situation are in a way acting, in my mind, in the best interest of everybody in the land. And I face a lot of criticism as an Israeli who is outspoken against the military occupation, and from the Israeli society, especially today when the society moved much more to the right. But I really believe that this is the right thing to do, and especially standing here with Basel together, it makes me reinforce those beliefs even more.
Basel, you highlighted some of the ways there that Palestinian lives are under threat in the West Bank. The physical violence of demolition of infrastructure, the local primary school, for example, losing access to water. But there's also a psychological cost as well. In the film, you mentioned that it's like emotional torture when your father is repeatedly arrested and detained by Israeli authorities. How do you see the effects of this mental exhaustion on your community? Are they losing the strength to fight?
Well, not losing the strength to fight today. Today it's way darkness than it was even during when we were shooting the movie, with what's going on with this like genocide happening in Gaza, with the silent war in the West Bank, killing hundreds of people, and continue the destruction in Masafer Yatta and other areas in the West Bank generally. But yeah, you're true. Like this is like, sometimes I think about it when all my life living this year after year and day after day, living under this brutal occupation that when I go to sleep, I'm worried if they're gonna invade my community, if tomorrow morning the bulldozer is gonna come destroy the community, if today the settlers gonna go to attack my neighbors when they're in their field, olive field, to collect their fruits of olives. I mean, this is really exhausted and torturing us, like of continue to be worried about things happening, but also to be worried from what's going to happen next. And with what the world is allowing Israel to do today, I mean, especially the West, like those governments who's always pretending and saying that they're standing for the international law, for the human rights law, and for the democracy, but allowing this like live genocide to happen without taking serious actions to stop it is really scary. That what else can be done, especially for us as Palestinians, as innocents, that we don't really have power to face this occupation, and you give Israel all the weapons, the strongest weapons in the world, like, to kill us.
And this is something that you flagged up at your acceptance speech during the Berlin Film Festival when the documentary won a prize there. Yuval, you also referred to the situation as an apartheid in Israel, and those remarks caused an outcry in Israel. Your family was intimidated, you feared for your own safety. You were also criticized by some high-profile German figures and called anti-Semitic. How did that feel?
Felt bad because the German politicians, most of my family was murdered in the Holocaust, and to see a German who is not Jewish call a Jewish Israeli who supports peace and is opposed to the occupation and anti-Semitic is just outrageous. And it's especially concerning because anti-Semitism is very real, and shamefully it's on the rise today, on the right and on the left. And if you weaponize this term to silence legitimate criticism, then you're emptying it out of meaning, and I think that's very dangerous. And the reason why I use the word apartheid, I mean, you're looking now at two people, we're the same age, me and Basel, like we're both 28, 29. We live in the same land, we live under Israeli control, but I have a blue ID, which means I can vote, Basel cannot vote. I'm under civilian law, which means soldiers cannot enter my house and arrest me in the middle of the night. Basel is under military law. When you have one land with two people and two different systems of law that are unequal, then for me that is the most apt and accurate words to describe it, as Israeli human rights organizations, Palestinian human rights organizations, and international human rights organizations are used to describe that. And we call to replace that with a system of equality, of mutual security and justice for both the Palestinians and the Israelis. And I think this political solution has always been and still is the only possible way forward.
Indeed. But I must say that this collaboration that you both did, working together, it does send an extremely strong message that it's possible for people, civilians, to come together beyond politics. The film was shown in Masafer Yatta, a tribute to those people. What do you hope this sends as an artistic, journalistic message to Israelis and Palestinians right now?
I mean, that's the people, first of all, should see the reality of what's happening, the suffer of Masafer Yatta community, and people should stand. I hope that Israelis but I don't really believe it today, to be honest, like in the Israeli society, after they supported they're supporting what's happening. But I hope that one day they will wake up and they will oppose what they are doing and oppose the occupation and oppose the building of settlements and oppose such a war where they send their soldiers to torture homes and to kill people and to arrest people and to do what they are doing, like, and filming it and be proud of it.
And you mentioned those countries that, for example, have supported Israel, like the United States, certain European countries. Yuval, do you think that perhaps seeing this film in those places might change opinions?
I hope. I mean, I think in a way, the film talks about one of the most marginalized communities in the West Bank, where there is, the injustice is so clear because there is no just reason, there is no possible explanation for bulldozing a school or for destroying water wells that people are drinking from or preventing electricity, and the fact that the United States has not even placed pressure on that to stop, like it's such a low tire that is not being met yet. As we are talking right now, I mean, just last week, the bulldozers came again to Masafer Yatta and destroyed another home. And this is continuing over and over again. And I think people in places like France and mainly in the United States, politicians do have the power to stop this and do have the power to lead us to a better place, to a political solution. And for that, we need to see actions.
Well, I must say that despite the brutal circumstances this film was made in, it is an astonishing piece of work, and you must both be congratulated for working on it together. It's an example of the solidarity that can exist. Basel, Yuval, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you very much.
We'll wrap up the show with another Palestinian film set in the West Bank to a similar political backdrop, but this is a dramatic feature. It even has some romantic intrigue. The Teacher stars Salih Bakri and Imogen Poots, and it will be screening at the upcoming festival of Franco-Arab cinema in Noisy-le-Sec here in France. We'll leave you with a clip. Otherwise, do check in with us next time here on Arts 24. There's more news coming up just after this.
الانتقام احساس بشع بوكلك بدمرك من جوا وما بحل ولا شيء ومش مهم شو السبب.
هذا جندي المخطوف صح؟
ممنوع تجيب السيره لولا حدا فاهم؟
فاهم أنا معك.
We will use every source we have to find him. Please, do you know where my son is?
They'll keep him alive as long as it takes.
How do you know that?
Because they know that your people believe your son is worth thousands of mine.